Greetings from SSF Global. A very warm welcome to all the esteemed speakers and delegates to the fourth edition of SSF Global's Leadership Interaction 2024 Europe Series. I am Pallavi Jaiswal, your host for today's session, and I'll be quickly giving you an introduction to today's topic as well as the speakers. Of course, we are grateful and delighted that you could find time in your busy schedules today to join us for the next 60 minutes of very, very focused conversation on the topic transforming enterprise functions through right shoring, maximizing operational efficiency and talent potential. The esteemed industry leaders who are speaking at this session are Alina, Gabriela, Sandor, who is the Global People Operations Lead for Europe for Wipro Technologies. Then we have with us Attila Toth. He's the Business Process Reengineering Leader and R2R Finance Transformation Lead with ABB. And of course, we have with us Urs-Ulrich Katzenstein, Head of Business Development and Transformation, Continental Europe with Quintes Global. He'll be moderating today's session for us. SSF Global warmly welcomes all the seasoned leaders like yourself to be sharing your transformation journeys, your experiential insights and perspectives. I'm sure this is going to add a lot of value for all our audience who are logged in today. Talking about the audience, we have several people logged in today on the Zoom platform, but there are several who are joining us at the SSF Global website. There is a direct live webcast which is happening there also. And just to keep everybody informed, to ensure that we have a wider perspective and everybody's views included during the deliberations, we've had one survey running for the past 3 weeks, and we have captured data from across the globe. To set the context for the conversation, Urs will be sharing the response to the survey with you as we progress with the conversation. So not taking too much of my time, I welcome all the speakers on the session. Kindly switch on your videos and audio. Thank you so much. I hand the session over to you, Urs. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. We are very happy that you join us today in this call. We're having two esteemed shared services professionals with us who will share their personal experiences on the topic of today, right shoring, and how we can leverage the talent for this one. I want to give you a quick overview on the poll, which we did in advance, and I quickly share the presentation. I need Pallavi to open that for us, then we can quickly go through that. It was also connected with the registration for the event, and it was a lot of input for this one. Yes, now you see it. The topic of today's discussion: transforming enterprise function through right shoring, how we can maximize the operational efficiency and talent potential. We had 6 questions, which we asked the poll participants. If you can go to the next slide, Pallavi, please. Is the answer for the first question. It's a kind of obvious question. How many of you engage in any form of outsourcing? It's quite a high number, obviously, because the people who are interested in the topic, many of them are already working on it. We have 86% who already, of the whole poll base, who are already engaged in it, and only 14% are not. In the next slide, you see question number 2. The question was, if you don't engage in outsourcing, what are the reasons? And there it's quite obvious you have the resistance of change and fear of job as one of the major ones. And then you have equal shares for lack of skilled people, technology integration issues, and language skills as a barrier, which is, are then more the side topics, but the personal topics is more the resistance of change and the fear of job. Everybody who works in shared services has faced that topic. Then what kind of functions have you already put into nearshoring, offshoring, or onshoring? We have the three major functions: finance, IT services, and customer support. You see finance is the biggest one with 31, and then IT services, these are the classic functions, and then customer support, and then we have 22, where we have all kind of other functions from HR through consolidation, asset management, and so on. So they are ending up in that area. The next question was in regards to the amount of our outsourcing. So how many percentage of your staff do you think is the best to outsource? And then we have the two peaks are between 25 and 75%. Very few outsource more than 75%, and then also a smaller part is below 25% of those who do outsourcing. In question 5 then, it was about how companies or teams or the participants ensure scalability of the support functions. There were several answers given in regards to flexible resource allocation, that you can really leverage, that you can use the same resources or teams for different functions. You have the modular service design, that you can there create synergies over different units of your organization with a similar and modular setup of the processes. Then a big share, 34%, is the technology infrastructure, which is especially in the recent years topic, which is very strongly growing. And then the last is strategic partnerships with other companies in regards to also cooperation on technical or also talent level. And then the last question was in question number 6, what the challenges are for organization to how they manage the talent in their support functions. The strong majority there is that the shortage of the right skills. This is not a topic which is only valid for outsourcing. This is everybody experiences this in all areas, functions, and industries. Then we have the performance review and feedback. When you do outsourcing, it's always a bit more challenging to measure the outsourced part. And then we have the next one is the clear SLAs and KPIs. That is a crucial topic. Also, in my own experiences, this was always the most difficult part, to define the SLAs and the KPIs with your outsourcing partner. Then the regular communication is a smaller part, but it's also, I guess, the further away you are, the moment you go into language skills or language barriers, cultural barriers, then these are definitely topics which are there. This is the feedback of the poll. I assume, Pallavi, that we can also put that online, that the participants can see that then in the after following up on the webinar today. Now I want to go into my dear guest's specialty field. I would like to pass the word to Attila first, to give us a quick overview on his experience in regards to transforming enterprise functions through right-shoring.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone for this webinar. Hopefully we will be able to share some experience and some ideas that would be helpful for everyone. Pallavi, may I ask you to let me to share my screen? Okay. So with a very short presentation, I would like to put right shoring into a perspective. And in my view, sourcing or right, and within that right shoring is part of any process transformation where both people, process, technology, and data need to be harmonized. And as most of what we are doing, especially in the service industry, is to capture, transform, and pass over data, that's why data is in the heart or in the center of this equation. When we are talking about process transformation, simplification and standardization is necessary. Why? Because that way you can prepare your processes for more effective automation and then sourcing. When we are talking about automation, looking at the processes and within the processes, the different activities, we have to understand and maximize the various tools and capabilities. And that would give us a very good ground on identifying all those manual efforts where we do need to identify resources, locations, and choose the right shoring for those services. About right shoring, and that would also help for some of the questions what we received prior to this call. So in right shoring, basically, we want to find the right balance between nearshoring, onshoring, and offshoring. Okay. When we do that, we also have to take into account certain factors like the cost, the risk, the availability of the resources, as well as the quality, what we are expecting and can get from these right shoring. When we are talking about the risks, so we are looking for, or we can potentially gain diversification of the risks, as well as with right shoring, we can also mitigate the risks for business continuity. When we are looking for the availability of the resources, we are looking for improving the customer experience in case our customer value proposition has round-the-clock services and so on. When we are also looking at cost, and most of in the last few decades, when we were talking about offshoring or outsourcing, it was mostly driven by cost. However, with right shoring, we have to look at and balance the cost with the values, also leveraging the economies of scale when we are talking about the various locations and centralization of the various services. And also with right shoring, it's very important, and it's also part of the main theme of this webinar, is that we would tap and we would get access to a global talent pool where we can optimize for what we are looking for, whether it's language, whether it's certain professional services or certain technical skills. Okay, so when just the checklist when you are working on right shoring. So as I mentioned earlier, you have to go through on these steps of standardization of the processes, automation, and then sourcing, which is basically the right shoring in what we are talking about. Whether you do it in this sequence or in any other sequence, it only depends on your business strategy. Yeah, but we have to go through on all these items again to make sure that our people, process, technology, and data is harmonized. And then when you are thinking about right shoring, basically you have to think about that. What is your need? What is your business strategy and business needs, which then be built into your right shoring strategy. Then selecting the right partner. Again, previously I mentioned about the economies of scale. When you are talking about small scale activities, but you are still looking for a global talent pool and a cost efficient operation, then you might want to think about that which model you want to use, whether it makes sense to keep in a captive model all your services, or outsource all of it, or maintain a hybrid delivery model where you have your own captive services as well as your BPO partner or partners. Yeah. Whether it's captive, so in-house or outsource, you have to build a very strong relationship, because there is no standalone processes what you can offshore or right shore, because all these processes are somehow linked to the overall process landscape of your company. So you have to find those relationships and then build that into your delivery model. Technology, I mean, that very important to understand that when you do any kind of sourcing, you do need a common platform where the data can be exchanged between the parties, as well as collaboration tools, which are also common. Yeah. So basically, you can then integrate all the resources using by these platforms. And then don't underestimate the level of change management. I mean, from the poll, we saw that a big chunk of the people are not going into the outsourcing area because of the fear of the change. Yeah. So change management, no matter when you are doing it in-house with an outsourcing partner, or even if you are not doing anything in this area, we are embracing change every single day in our life, both in business as well as private life. We have to prepare for it, plan it, and manage the change. Okay, so that was the short presentation from me. Hopefully it helped to put it into context, and then let's go to the questions, and also Alina will share some experience from her company.
Yes, thank you, Attila, for sharing this very comprehensive overview on the topic. I guess we will get also much deeper in detail in the later discussion, especially also your experiences with ABB. But at first, I would love to Alina to share her point of view on the topic.
Thank you, Urs. Thank you, Attila. I was thinking when Attila was explaining about the right shoring, and actually I was very happy and surprised about the topic of the meeting. I do believe that traditionally we have spoken along the time about nearshoring, offshoring, and not necessarily understanding the need of right shoring. And why I'm saying I'm happy, because we as a human beings, and coming from HR, I always emphasize on the human part, we are thinking to have quick solutions, and the quick solutions are not coming usually with a right shoring model. But we do know that persistence, resilience to change will bring us to a better success in the future. So I'm happy about the topic, and I will say that as a long-term solution, right, shoring, because it's not an immediately a cost impact, I would say, it actually changed the client potential on how to run business in a multicultural environment. This is what it is about. And the model also catering to the need of the client based on what are their needs, markets, clients, infrastructure that they are having access to it. And it's not a perfect solution that we can offer with a model. We have to prioritize based on the needs. And now getting closer to the HR Shared Service Center, because I will share my perspective from HR, and I will be sharing the perspective from a captive shared services, like the role that I am in today. The decision when wanted to go to this model was actually arising from the geopolitical nuances. So GDPR, which has changed our lives drastically. So this was the reason that we started. We didn't start it from cost aspect. We knew that the cost was not going to be immediately as an impact, but we wanted to cater to our compliance needs, local compliance, but on the same time, choosing a balance between a nearshore and an offshore, which is right shoring, between global teams and internal teams, has also had an effect or impact on our internal customers, which are our associates, our employees. Satisfaction. So we had to build a model on right shoring, having access to the right skills, to the right set of people, being close to the markets, close to the local regulations, and the cultural change that GDPR brought, because it is a cultural change that it has impact even today. We are still seeing, even for us within Europe, being difficult to understand and to manage these changes. I believe that it is important to adapt to the needs, and that's the message from my side in terms of the right shoring.
Thank you very much, Alina, for sharing your point of view with us. We all talk about right shoring so far, and I guess everybody has something in their mind what for them is right shoring. So I would like both of you to also share your view. What is right shoring from your point of view, especially in the context of your organization? I mean, you work, Alina, you work in HR specifically, and Attila is working for in the finance area for ABB, which is again a company which does some industrial company. You Alina, work for Wipro, who is an outsourcer themselves, and you're taking care of the internal HR function. So maybe if you both can give us your view on right shoring, what you think is a good thing or a good description of right shoring.
Yeah, maybe I step in now. So at ABB, we started a finance transformation program a couple of years back. And the main drivers was and is to have data about our financials, both for internal and external purposes, faster, in a higher quality, and then get more transparency what's behind it. The reason is that we have a very diverse system landscape, which need some kind of common platform for data exchange, as I mentioned earlier. So the decision was to implement SAP S/4HANA Central Finance and basically get the underlying so-called source ERP systems linked into Central Finance, get real-time data replication, as well as utilizing the technology. We are moving certain subledgers as well as global payment solutions into CFIN. So basically, we do have a technology, a disruption from this technology by implementing a common platform, and that opens the door not only for process standardization opportunities, however, also the right shoring. In our model, we do have both nearshoring, onshoring, as well as offshoring solutions in multiple delivery centers, as well as more localized resources, and localized processes. In the future model, with the CFIN implementation, we are able to increase the centralization of key processes, as well as identifying those processes or other activities that need to stay close to the business or close to the location. And also we identified certain activities and processes where we diversify them from the overall process and create a center of excellences, which basically would give us also the nearshoring solution. So in our case, at the end state, and I rather not use that end state because this will evolve over time as there will be new technologies or new disruptions from the regulatory environment, like Alina was pointing it in terms of the GDPR, or from our customers, new needs are coming in. But in this transformation program, basically, we would end up with two main centers where we are centralizing the three main processes, as well as another two center of excellences and multiple in the future business embedded solutions for onshoring. So in our case, roughly 70% of the work will be offshored, and about another 20-ish% nearshore, and the remaining 4-5% onshore.
Okay, thank you very much. And Alina, what is your view?
So again, looking for from the internal, let's say, model that we are following, if we would look at this as a, let's say, an explanation, I said it's changing the perception of managing a business. So the model of right sharing, we started catering to the EU data sharing agreement and using the right talent, skills, being in the proximity of the market. But what we have done, we have started to use the global policies, infrastructure, and technology. Before this, before the right shoring model in Wipro, and I will give an example because this is easier to be used as an example. We used to have, due to the different laws and regulation, different processes, local policies that we were following based on the local requirements, local tools, local vendors that we used to use. And then there were always the global policies. And for our company or for our leadership to be able to analyze the data, because we know, like Attila said, data is the primary engine of everything. We needed to have a common understanding on a common language that we could all speak, and that means a standardization. But how standardization is possible when we have so many complexities in the local laws? So once we have gathered the information, because that was the first step of right sharing, we try to standardize the information that we had. And then after standardized, we changed either the vendor agreements, we change processes so that it caters to both the local needs and both to the global needs. Once we have been able to do, and we have used partnership, because one of the methods that we are using in right sharing is to have the right partnership, and especially in EU, using the specialist on labor laws, on fiscal laws, was primarily reason of standardization, so that we can understand what it can be implemented from global level at local level. And then technology, of course, and automations. How you can do automation if you don't have a standard process. So only when we have been able to standardize parts of the work, we have been able to automate and transform the journey. So it's a short walk through, but as I said, it's a complex, and it is a in the time. If we look when we started in 2017, right before the GDPR, and up today, we are still, I would say, at 90% of this journey, but we are heading through full automation soon.
Yeah, I needed to unmute myself. Sorry, that's always to find the button. Thank you, Alina, for that one. I think it's a very interesting point that you also mentioned, that the data is one of the key information, like same as Attila said, which is one of the most crucial topics to cover in the transformation through right shoring. In the context of today's business environment, what do you see further dynamics driving further right shoring? You know, the right shoring as such is more complex than just outsourcing, because you look at the balance of how you deal with the things. But what are the drivers? Maybe Alina starting.
Sure. I'm still avoiding to start with cost, because everyone is talking about cost. So I will start with regulatory and policy consideration. So changes in policy, in tax law, in regulations can impact the attractiveness of different locations for business operation. And this is something that is driving companies to reevaluate their right shoring strategies. So after this, technology and infrastructure, we hear every day about AI implementations, about the need of transformation. So advanced technology and infrastructure can make it more feasible for companies to locate their operation in different locations, and taking advantage of digital connectivity and logistic capability. So what it means that today we are using, I don't know, Teams or Zoom today to connect, right? This is a technology that saved us a lot in COVID times when we started all to use it, but also opened the opportunity for access to different technologies, to different infrastructure, and of course, access to talent. Because right shoring also enables company to have a wider pool of skilled workers and specialized experts in different parts of the world. This can help companies access the talent where they need it, in the location they need it, to drive innovation and growth. Proximity to market, I keep mentioning. This allows company to locate their operation closer to their market. In this case, in HR case, it's to be closer to the employees in the respective country. And here I will give the example. When we started the shared services in Europe using the ride sharing, we have customized our shared contact center and response to employees queried in the local language. So the technologies enabled us to build this type of support for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, risk management, I don't want to forget, because diversity of the operation can reduce the exposure to geopolitical, economical environment risk in a globalized business environment. So it means that data transfer outside of the European premises at the beginning, when this topic was a mystery, has saved us in the right sharing until we could determine the right agreements, data sets of agreements of transfer data, and we could build a compliance and solid process. So that's my view.
Thank you, thank you. Attila, I have a follow-up question to you, if you allow me. We touched the topic geopolitics several times now. In how far have the recent years, the last 3-4 years, with the COVID and the international conflict coming up, impacted your ride-sharing strategy?
So COVID, although it was a terrible disease that took too many lives, if we can see a little bit the positive side was that it taught us that people can work from anywhere. And that basically opened a huge gate to global talent pool. And that definitely helped and will help in our ride-sharing strategy going forward as well. The reason is that Alina is also mentioned, and I mentioned before, these collaboration platforms that do exist, and it's evolving. That, I mean, even what now today we use Zoom for this webinar, and we are in very different locations, and yet we still can sit in a room and talk about important topics. So that's that was, if at all, a positive outcome, during and after COVID. The other areas is these global platforms where companies are implementing. I mentioned CFIN, but also we are working on standard platform both for our customer relationship management as well as vendor relationship management. And we are exploring advanced technologies such as AI, both for analytics as well as for large-scale repetitive and rule-based work. So in the coming years, for sure that our ride-sharing strategy and ride-sharing tactics will remain agile, as either it's a geopolitical topic that steps in, or it's a technology advancement. That's why we have to look at that golden triangle with data in the middle. How can we leverage? Another geopolitical topic which is coming up more and more is that as we are in the midst of an economic downturn, I mean, that I cannot find any better word for it. Countries are looking for rules and regulatory tools for job protection, as well as leveraging some tax tax income for the countries. So questions about where the value added is really created. So when we are looking at our right-shoring strategy, while a particular location might look cost effective from the let's say the labor cost point of view, in case the regulatory environment would tap into our value creation and wants to get a slice of the cake, it might not be that attractive after that. So we have to look around the whole environment, and wherever there is any significant change or opportunity, we have to revisit our right-shoring model and strategy.
Thank you very much. I agree with you. This topic of transfer pricing is a very, very complicated one. When you go into shift on a political level, the money flow between countries, and there you need to be very flexible on both sides, yeah, on the recipient and also on the sender, that you can optimize your portfolio in this context.
Yeah.
We saw also before that many companies are working in the area of customer services. And I would like to also quickly focus on the topic of the right-shoring in regards to customer experience. How do you see that, Attila, how this right-shoring can contribute to even improve the customer experience and the value delivery?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we are working on customer relationship management platform implementation. That would create the base for not only for data exchange, and I also mentioned using some advanced technologies on analytics, which then can lead to better business decisions, but also the way we can communicate with our prospect as well as with our actual customers. Also using some of the technology for like chatbots when there are basic questions, and also the service options, which would give another customer value proposition, and then using our sales forces more to fulfill the customer needs or create more new relationships and open new channels or areas. So,
but this is more in context to technology, right? So you said that the technology enables that, then the right-shoring the balance which you can set up to help to improve the customer satisfaction. Alina,
Yes.
do you have a case where you could which you could share with us on that topic, or an example?
Definitely, and I would also emphasize on the technology, because I was thinking how the transformation was for our internal customers, so for our employees, using the right technology. So we always look on the business outcome, like an evaluation criteria, but to go to a positive outcome of our business, we never have to forget about our employees' experience, our customers' experience. And we don't want our employees to be experiments, or and even our customers to be in an experimental phase, not anything. So what we have done, we have used on-shelf products that we had, and we had adapted the information that it's coming to them in a more rapid way, because this is speed. It's one of the key factors that enhance customer satisfaction. And I'm talking from the HR perspective. When somebody has a query on payslip or a query on medical claims, they will definitely want to have a speedy response to it. They don't want to wait for it. So we have built it internal chatbot that would respond to the first level of queries to the employees, so that where they can access the data quicker, quicker information. For example, if you have a medical claim and you want to claim it, how do you reach to that specific numbers, and all this in a chatbot that they can easily connect and get the details. And then further to this, so further to technologies, it's also the adaptability of the tools or the global platform to the local tools. So and building partnership with our market providers, where the employees could actually not only experience a global tool, but they could see the relevance of information based on based on their needs. So technology definitely it's important, and with the help of technologies we can speed our answers and we can cater to the client need quicker.
Thank you, Alina. This is a very interesting example. Chatbots is something which many organizations nowadays use to also have a unique front end towards their internal and external customers. Attila,
maybe on this topic, just one more comment, because I was focusing too much on technology, but I mean that when we are talking about ride sharing, we are talking about also the resources. So in our model, basically, we do have one hub for the customer service functions, mainly focusing on the language supports. However, as we have to support 22 hours time zone, our customers, we also created some smaller centers who can cover that time zone or that specific language. So it's already using the on, near, and offshoring balance in a balanced way.
Thank you. That's also a very lively example, and that's something which our audience for sure appreciates, because then you get also ideas on what you can use in your own organization. And as you are sharing that, I'm sure both your examples are very successful. I want to switch on, as the time is already very fast progressing. I have two, three more other questions. And now I want to go more into the talent management. Now, having this ride-sharing model, which is quite complex, you have people all over the world, more or less, you have different organizational structures. How can organizations, or how do your organization effectively manage and integrate these global talent pools, at the same time maintaining also a cohesive company culture? Because you have outsourced parts, you have insourced parts, you have in different countries where also the culture comes in. How do you deal with that? If I may, then I would like to first direct this question to Alina.
So for us in Wipro, we are very, very putting all our accent in defining and communicating the company values, because the company values that we are having are, I always say, common sense, which means respect on the individual, trust. Once you set up this very clearly and you communicate this with in all possible channels, in all possible forums, our leadership, it's reinforcing on the company values, then you have built the first step on your way. You have built the first step on your way. Then when establishing the global teams in different parts of the world, they have this base, like I said, the company values. Then we can build cross-functional teams, which means that the talent is used and there is a cross-training between the teams to help them understand and appreciate the differences in the work styles, communication, cultural norms. Then we have different cultural exchange program. We have cultural talks where you can participate and you can understand how to formulate an answer. Then we always analyze in the contact center or in the ticketing tool. We do analytics and reports based on how the response was formulated. And one of the most important point that it is analyzed is the way that we have responded based on that specific country needs, because we know that communication can differ, and the way that you express this in a response in a ticketing tool can be very important and can make a difference. And I will give a really simple answer that I have experienced. Here in Europe, we have this need of response first, not resolution. And when we started to answer to the employees' queries, just a simple answer that, hey, we are here, but we might take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, depending on how the complex topic did. This has made a huge difference in response. And this was something that we have exchanged with our central teams, and we have learned from each other how to deal with this. And also, when I'm saying about the company's values, diversity and inclusion, it's one of the most important topics. We have to emphasize the importance of diversity and inclusion in organization, and create policy and practice that can support and celebrate the difference between our employees. And then we go to the standardization of our programs, of course, and open communication. Leadership is always playing an important role, because our leaders have to efficiently manage and integrate global talent pools and promoting the company culture and values. And also recognize and reward our employees. We have this programs in the company which recognize, and it's recognizing talent across the world. Feedback, it's always a need. Feedback from clients, feedback from internal, feedback from our global teams also.
Yeah, thank you, Alina. For Attila, you work for a company which also is a global company, ABB, for many decades already. Culture for you, how do you deal with that?
So we basically created 2 main hubs for 3 main processes, and in those hubs, when we are creating a career planning model, we basically have all levels within that particular process organization, so we can nurture talents who are coming off from their studies and wants to grow and develop within that organization. And with the center of excellences, where we do not necessarily have all levels. So for the entrance, we have already some higher level or higher expectations in terms of knowledge. We are attracting those people to work with the main operational hubs as trainers and advisors, doing quality assurance, giving feedback. So we bring or we try to integrate these satellite teams into the centralized organization.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. We're getting close to the end already. It's crazy how time flies. One question which is I'm very curious about is right shoring. In the beginning, you just did outsource. The companies just did outsourcing one place and starting to give away. Now it's getting more complex. You have nearshoring, right shoring, and all these topics. How do you, Attila? Maybe I can ask you first. How do you see the future in regards to the balancing of right shoring?
Yeah, I mean that in the future, as we discussed, we have to watch the space, what's happening in the environment, and how can we better balance between these opportunities. In my view, I know I use again technology, but with the technology advancement, I believe that these onshore, nearshore, offshore will be much more fluid and overlapping each other. So I mean that let's say in 5 to 10 years time, we will see these monster centers, changing its shape as well as size. And I would envisage much more smaller centers across the globe who are mainly virtually connected, as well as to maintain the organization's culture. There will be a combination of both virtual and face-to-face collaborations and interactions. So while right now steel companies are looking to lower cost locations and centralizing their more work, I believe that again with the technology enhancement, these will be more spread and probably nearshoring or even onshoring will be more viable than today's environment.
Thank you, Attila. And Alina, may I address the same question to you, maybe with a special focus on talent management and on special skills?
Sure. So today, one of the reasons that we are choosing a right shoring model was because of the language barrier, right? This is what has driven to us, because AI today, they are learning how to translate in different languages, but using, that specific expression, because we already have engines that can translate a simple conversation, but I'm talking about that a specific expression that it is used. In fact, for sure, in near future, the technology will be so advanced that these language barrier will be broken, and that from language perspective, there will be no need to have this in different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. The common language for all of us will be the technology language. That will be the common language that we will all talk. So rather than seeing this, and I agree with Attila, it's not about being nearshore, offshore, or right shoring. It's about being in the right place and having the right skills. In the right place means that you are advanced in technology and having the skills in technology. And I think that this is what our clients will choose: the experience in technology, the access to technology, the access to data. That's my personal view on this.
Thank you very much, Alina. Yeah, we're actually already a bit overdue. We started late, so I think please allow me still to quickly ask you to thank you very much for your participation. First, Alina and Attila, and then also, of course, our backend team. And thank you very much also to all our audience. I highly appreciated your interest in the topic. I would propose that if you have further questions, either address it to Pallavi or to our esteemed guests themselves, who I'm sure are very happy to also answer direct questions. Thank you again for everybody for this very interesting exchange, also for the questions which came on. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope to see one or the other of you again in a next webinar, or even personally anywhere in the world. Thank you very much.